quoted from the Old Testament. They were quoting from the Septuagint. And a new Aramaic version, both of which fit Akiva's theology better. They couldn't change the Hebrew version, but their commentaries in the oral law on the Tanakh became the final authority. From this, we have Orthodox Judaism today. This is Rabbi Moshe ben Shaul. From the horse's mouth, folks, Judaism is a distortion, is a perversion of the doctrine of Moses. It is not a continuation of the doctrine of Moses. Don't believe that lie, folks. Didn't Paul tell you that in the latter days the Christians would be deluded by false doctrine? This is the false doctrine. Now, earlier I told you that the vast majority of the Jewish people are not even Shemites. They're not even Israelites. They're not even Judahites. They are imposters pretending to be Judah and Israel. I'm now going to quote from the pictorial history of the Jewish people. The pictorial history of the Jewish people tells us this about the Khazars. Of all the astonishing experiences of the widely dispersed Jewish people, the Jews were not dispersed until 70 AD. Now you know that the Israelites were dispersed in 745 BC. The real Israelites were dispersed a good 800 years earlier. The Jewish people, of all the astonishing experiences of the widely dispersed Jewish people, none was more extraordinary than that concerning the Khazars, Khazars. The Khazars, during the Byzantine era, were an aggregation of warlike tribes who, it is conjectured, must have sprung from Hun or Turkish stock. With dramatic suddenness, the Khazars entered the orbit of Jewish life. One of their Khagans, or kings, called Bulan, was converted to Judaism about the year 740 CE, by which they mean the Common Era, because the Jews don't like to use Anno Domini, because it's a reference to Jesus Christ. And with him went the Khazar tribes. Folks, the Jewish people, the vast majority of the Jewish people today are not related to Israel or Judah at all. They are descendants of the Khazars. Now, from an article entitled The Jews That Aren't by Leo Hyman from the San Diego Union, August 28, 1966. He has this to say: Nathan M. Pollock has a beef with the Israeli government. His elaborate plans to celebrate this September the 1000th anniversary of the Jewish-Khazar alliance were summarily rejected. Now, of course, you must understand that the Jewish world does not want the Christian world to understand that their heritage is Khazar Ashkenazi and not Israel Judah. An elderly, meek-looking man who migrated to Israel from Russia 43 years ago, and of course Russia was was the nation that incorporated these Khazar people much later in history. Pollock ekes out a living as a translator of scientific texts and proofreader in a publishing firm, but his great passion, hobby, and avocation is historic research. He has devoted 40 years of his 64 years to trying to prove that 6 out of 10 Israelis and 9 out of 10 Jews in the Western Hemisphere are not real Jews, that is, they're not really Judahites at all, folks, but descendants of fierce Khazar tribes which roamed the steppes of southern Russia many centuries ago. Continuing here, as a matter of fact, our alleged descent from the Khazars is the central theme of the Arab propaganda, he states. The Arabs claim most European Jews have no right to be in Israel in the first place because they are not descended from the biblical Hebrews, but from Tartar Mongol nomad tribes, including the Khazars, who were converted to Judaism en masse 1,000 years ago. So folks, the Jewish people know that they're not descended from Judah and Israel. They know they're descended from the Khazar tribes, but they can't afford to allow you to know, because all of the money that the Christian Zionists send to that bandit state of Israel is used to prop up the Antichrist, and the Antichrist will never admit that he is not Judah. He will never admit that he is not Israel. I have two more quotations for you. 1 John chapter 2, verse 18. Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now there are many Antichrists. Don't believe the lie that Antichrist hasn't come yet. He is already here. They are already here, whereby we know that it is the last time. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us. But they went out, that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us. Who was with the Israelites in those days that John is telling you are not of us people Israel, are not of us people the Judahites? These were the Edomites, folks, as the Bible clearly tells you if you understand it. One final quote from this booklet, The Mask of Edom, by William Norman Saxon. He summarizes the relationship between the Jews and the true Israelites, our people, Caucasian Israel. The Jews' masquerade as the Lord's chosen people is undoubtedly the greatest hoax in history. This is the basis of the anti-God conspiracy of which Asaph spoke. The plan began to evolve among the Jews in Babylon who, as the historian H.G. Wells wrote, found the idea of belonging to the chosen race to preeminence was a very attractive one. If they could foist themselves off on the world as Israel, their grandiose ambitions for world dominion would be greatly enhanced. They began to claim Abraham for their father and thrust their company upon the remnant of the true Judahites. As I explained to you, that's what happened in Judea when Herod usurped the throne of Hyrcanus II and kicked the Judahites out and replaced them all with Edomites. These Pharisees that Jesus Christ tells you are the children of the devil are Edomites, folks. They are not Judahites. So, to conclude this episode, the Jewish people, their genealogy from Cain went to the Kenites, from the Kenites to the Canaanites, from the Canaanites to the Edomites, from the Edomites to the Idumeans, who became known as the Pharisees, who are known today as today's Sephardic Jews. They are not, in any way, shape, or form, descended from true Israel, and the vast majority of the Jewish people today are not even Shemites. They are Ashkenazi Khazars by their own admission, if you read their writings instead of believing the lies they perpetuate in the mass media.